apply some separator. So the flask is still relatively warm. Just going to use a paper towel to hold my flask in position and apply separator as shown previously for new cases. Same idea, no different. So I'm just going to go over to the sink off camera and just kind of rinse off the excess material with a little bit of water. I'm just going to let that drain a little bit. Like to add, just for good measure, just another layer of separator on top of the initial layer. So I'm going to get my brush back. Just wipe it off a little bit and kind of wipe off some of the excess separator from the initial layer. So we want a nice uniform coat of separator, relatively thin, not too thick, and that looks pretty good. Okay, and now we are ready. Let that dry a little bit before we pack it. We are ready to introduce the soft liner material. I just noticed a little more flash right here. Just going to cut that off. That little bit there. I hope you can see that on camera. That little bit there. Give it another final look. Everything else seems to be okay. Just give it a final look, make sure everything is closing. It shouldn't have any interference at all. Everything looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit more back here. A little bit there. And we have another little fine piece back here. We'll scrape that a little bit. Wipe that off. Just going to use a clean brush just to wipe away any extra flakes, or you can just use your air nozzle. And there's another little flash of acrylic right here. So make sure you take the time to scrape away any excess flash of acrylic, because it will prevent the case from coming back together. Everything is nice and clean. Let's see how everything comes back together. And that looks pretty good. Feels pretty solid. I'm going to apply just one more layer of separator on top of the model surface. You want to make sure you have good separation now on the model surface itself for the soft liner. So just a fine second coat of separator. I'll just go over it thoroughly. So we have this glossy surface finish to prevent any of the material adhering to the model surface. Okay. So now let's take a look at the soft liner itself. This one that we're using, it's made by Dentsply. It's called LuciSoft. It comes in strips like this, and one strip is sufficient to fill the whole arch, and then some, I would say. Let's take a look at the curing time. So the curing time for this particular material, there's a couple of curing methods, but the curing method we're going to use, just want to bring it up close to the camera so everybody can see it. It requires us to hold the material at 73 degrees or 163 degrees Fahrenheit for 1.5 hours. Then it's followed by 2.5 hours in boiling water. So we're going to set that with the acrylizer after we pack it. So that's the curing method that we use. So make sure that whatever acrylic you've introduced here between the existing denture base and the soft liner is compatible with these curing times. So you wouldn't want to use an acrylic that takes 20 minutes to cure or 45 minutes. You want to make sure that it's compatible with this curing time. So 1.5 hours at 73 and 2.5 hours at boiling. Okay, so I'm going to change my gloves now and put on a fresh set of gloves so I can handle the material. So this will prevent any contamination of the material that could possibly get trapped and be evident after you cure it. You can certainly trial pack the material, but once again, I'm going to overpack the case. And the way I'm going to do this now is going to take a strip of the material, peel off the separating sheet, and you can actually manipulate the material a little bit. It's somewhat stiff. I'm just going to fold it like that and squeeze it a little bit. And once again, I'm going to try not to put any material too far over the Retromola pad. I'm trying to squeeze all of this material right over the crest of the ridge in an ideal position to get an even layer, just like the wax spacer as it was before. Just turn my camera angle a little bit. A little bit thin back here, so I'm just kind of pushing it back. It's somewhat maneuverable, so you can move it around a bit. And that's probably as much as I want to do with that. And at this point, I can bring the top half of the flask back on here. You can clearly see that it's open. And then I'll go back to my hydraulic press. Zoom in on that a little bit and open my press again. Back in position. center things. Close it as much as I can. Close the valve. And then slowly bring things up to pressure. There we go. A little off center. And eventually, nice and slow, so we can see the soft lining material come out the sides. Nice and slow. So I'm slowly bringing it up to pressure again. So this time around, I'm not going to go to 2000 psi. It's going to be slightly less. Make sure my valve is completely closed. I'm going to get it up to about 100 bar, about there, which is about 1500 psi. And I just want you to take a look around the compress so we have enough material that came out. And this was a relatively large case, so if you're working with cases that are larger than this, well, you might want to use maybe some more of another strip to make sure that you have enough material on there. Otherwise, you're going to get porosity. So I'm going to peel some of this extra material out, and you can see again the flasks are flush together all the way around. I think we have sufficient material, extra material that came out the side to indicate that, hopefully, never say never, that we don't have any porosity problems. But of course, time will tell. So I'm going to leave that in there for about 10-15 minutes, or as long, the longer the better, about 10-15 minutes. Leave that in the compress or in the hydraulic press, and then I'll be able to transfer it over to the compress and set it in our curing unit. Just take note how much material was left from the outside. Now this is relatively clean material unless you have any stone debris in there. You might want to use it as an extra for another case. All you got to do is store it properly. Okay, so in the next video we'll go over the curing process.